Hi, everyone. It's Maria again with Mysterious Adventure Tours, and I'm so delighted you're on this very special week's presentation of Ireland. And I know you all are chomping at the bit to find out how a dark, supernatural Ireland looks like, and hopefully we'll show that to you today. So before we do that, I want to get you salivating about Ireland. Ireland. Oh, so magical, so wonderful, so beautiful. But when you mix in a little bit of that mystery and her history and her legends and the leprechauns and fairies, and yes, of course, those banshees and phantoms, it becomes an extraordinary experience. And we're going to show you some of that today. We're going to be featuring one of our favorite ambassadors. His name is Dave Schrader. I'm going to go ahead and just bring him on in. Hi, Dave.
Hello, look it's almost like
Are
I'm
you
there.
there? Is that your is that your backyard?
No, it's my house. You can
Oh,
see
it's
all my stuff behind. Yeah, that's my house. That's my summer house up there in the hill.
Dave Schrader, welcome to our world. We haven't done one of these yet, revealing the mysteries of what on our Sunday broadcast. And God, I finally got you in here. Finally got you in here. And what a good celebration we're doing today, Ireland. And you've been
I
there.
love it. Yes, I was out there. I think it was 7 or 8 years ago already. And I can't wait to get back. All I remember is just how beautiful it was, how truly amazing. But I will tell you, when we were there, we had uncharacteristically beautiful blue skies for all but 2 days. So yeah, that when we were there, our hosts were like, "We don't know what you've done or what you've brought with, but we never have this kind of." I mean, it was just crazy. But not that it's gloomy otherwise, but it's just it had a totally different vibe to it. And they were laughing; they thought we were paranormal bringing it over there.
Oh, godly. Well, for those that don't know who Dave Schrader is, first of all, get out of from under the rock, right? Yeah, yeah.
Or get back under where there's better reception.
We'll find out after the show which way they're going to go.
That's right.
But you are
Well, I'm the
really
host of the longtime running podcast Darkness Radio, and
Mhm.
I'm now the host of the Paranormal 60 podcast and videocast every Monday and Friday, and I'm the lead investigator on the TV series The Holzer Files.
Yes.
So it's and I've been doing paranormal events and things like this for 16 years now, doing the overseas events for the last 10 years. As a matter of fact, this marks my 10th anniversary. I didn't get out of the country till I was 44 years old.
Yes.
So it's great. And I can't wait for this to be my first big trip of 2022.
It's been 2 years, Dave, right? We
Yeah.
deserve this.
Yes.
And we've been pushing back. We started this plan, this journey together a couple of, almost a year and a half ago. And it just
Mhm.
kept going forward and forward and forward. And finally, we're here, June of 2022. We'll be stepping out of that airplane in Dublin, Ireland for 9 magical days. And I'm so looking forward to that. A lot of what we do and when we build our itineraries and I call them not build, but craft the itineraries, it's all around the spirited, the haunted, the mysteries, the legends, because people don't want to come with us just to go and look at a museum of art. I mean, that's fine. You can do that on your post-trip plans.
That's
With
right.
us, we're going to have fun and really discover and explore the supernatural of Ireland, which it has so much to offer. I use a lot of experts in my field. In Ireland, there's only one person I would suggest even thinking about using as my influencer. And she's helped me along the journey of developing Ireland to be one of the most spectacular tours that we do. Her name is Ann Massey. Yes, and there's Anne, and she's coming all the way from Dublin. Are you sitting in Dublin?
I'm sitting in County Limerick, actually.
Well, that's
I go
close enough.
between the two, but Limerick, we're still close enough. Yeah.
Yes, and she's a deputy editor for a magnificent go-to website called Spooky Isles. Spooky Owl is a collection of um, anthologies of short stories about all that is haunted in all the British Isles, including Ireland. And you are the one that's in charge of the Irish stories, aren't you?
I am indeed. It's more than even stories, although we have our Spooky Owls books as well. But it's any accounts, paranormal investigations. We meet paranormal teams. We debate everything from psychic mediums through to orbs and everything else besides. And mostly we talk about the magnificent haunted locations of the United Kingdom and Ireland and Northern Ireland.
Right. And you're also, I don't know what to call the editor or the proprietor for a really nifty website, and that would be darkemeraldtravels.com. Up my alley, up Dave's alley.
Hey, up your alley.
Yes. Yes. So
yes.
Am I absolutely gifted to have you on my team, and you're here today to give us those extra stories.
Yeah.
Pardon me?
Yeah. And a paranormal investigator to boot.
And she's also my personal Irish conversational trainer, because what you read is not what you say. Is that right? That's right.
If you're looking for logic, you're coming to the wrong place.
So hopefully we'll give you a little demonstration of that in our today's program. So we talked about getting off the plane in Dublin. Mm-hmm. That's our first stop. And we're going to have a day there. And so let's go ahead and take a peek at Malahide Castle. Here we go.
In 1185, Sir Richard Talbot was gifted land by Henry II in recognition of his service during the Anglo-Norman conquest of Ireland. Talbot built Malahide Castle, and the family connection remained for 800 years. Today, visitors can take a tour of the magnificent castle and walk through 260 acres of beautiful gardens and parkland. But as they do, they are also brushing shoulders with several ghostly inhabitants who have made themselves known to visitors, staff, and even performers at concerts held in the castle grounds. The ghost of Walter Hussey, also known as young Lord Galtram, is known to draw the attention of his witnesses to the spear wound in his side, the very spear that killed him on his wedding day. It is said that his newly widowed wife, Maud Plunkett, wasted no time in marrying again after his death. Some stories suggest that she married the man who killed her young husband, while others suggest it was another rival of his. Either way, Walter still walks the castle hallways, protesting his early death and his lover's betrayal. As it happens, Lady Plunkett herself is also said to roam the halls of Malahide Castle. Her second marriage did not last, and by the time she married for the third time, to a Lord Chief Justice no less, it is said that she had become paranoid and insecure. Maud was said to harangue her husband, and they would often argue, with him trying to walk away and escape her incessant outbursts. The ghost of Maud has been seen still pursuing and arguing with the spirit of her final husband. The ghost of a man in a full suit of armour is reputed to break into 4 separate pieces when he is spotted. This tale is associated with Miles Corbett. Corbett was one of 59 members of Parliament who signed the death warrant of Charles I, and Malahide Castle was gifted to him by Oliver Cromwell in 1649. A locally despised character, Corbett attempted to outlaw Catholicism and even attacked the local abbey. But he would later face the wrath of of the newly reinstated monarchy in 1662, when he was eventually hanged, drawn and quartered. For those who do not know what this means, Corbett would have been secured to a wooden panel and dragged through the streets to his place of execution. He would then be hanged, but not long enough for him to die. Finally, while he was still alive, he would have been castrated, disemboweled, beheaded, and cut into 4 pieces. His fragmented ghost is said to appear on the anniversary of his death each year, this being the 19th of April, although he has been spotted at other times as well.
I cut it short because he'll be talking about another famous ghost there that I want Dave to introduce. But before we do that, Dave, you've been to Malahide Castle.
Mm-hmm. Well, first of all, it sounds like that guy that was drawn and quartered was really just on a really interesting and new wave of weight loss. That's how I look at it. Yeah, Malahide
Not
Castle.
that should be exercised out there.
You know, I'm glad they tried it back then to see how it worked. Not so well. We know better now, right? We just cut out sodas and anything with sugar in it, and everything else is better. Yeah, Malahide Castle was great, and we had an interesting opportunity to go around, and it's so beautifully maintained and kept. So I really enjoyed that aspect of it. But again, to hear the stories, and I'd ask the reps and the tour guides, you know, they tell us a ghost story, and I'd go, but have you ever had an experience? And they're like, I haven't, but our night tour guide or this tour guide has. Or they'd be like, yeah, I've had experiences, but they don't even really, I believe Malahide was one. They don't really like you to even talk too much about the ghosts of Malahide. But they'll give you a couple of nuggets as you're going along in there. And, but everybody's so friendly. And you could tell that they honestly love the history, which is an important part of the paranormal, knowing all of the stories and history behind this, why these places are haunted and why they were so important to those areas.
Right. And with that, and before I get your little contribution on the Malahide, I'm going to show them a little snippet that I found out there about Puck when Dave went out to Ireland, 7 years ago? 8 years ago?
7 years ago, we're sitting in a little breakfast place. And the guy heard us all laughing and having a good time, and he asked us what we were doing there. And I said, we're here for a paranormal tour. And he rolled his eyes, and I said, what's the matter? You don't believe? And he said, not at all. I'm a skeptic. And then launched into the story of Puck.
Yes.
Right, and your name is?
Peter Fowler.
All right, Peter, and you're going to tell us about a ghost where?
In Malahide Castle, North County Dublin.
All right,
his name is Puck.
Puck.
And Puck's speciality is Puck hits when there are changes about the castle. It's like it's his place, and he doesn't like changes. Anytime that there's a change of new staff, change of furniture, he strikes, and he's playful. The 2 security men who'd be best buddies because they're there for 10 years now. Many nights. They start off in the basement.
And you're a skeptic, you said?
Absolute.
Okay.
They start off in the basement, checking, locking doors, and 2 minutes later, they go back, and the door that they'd locked is suddenly open, and vice versa. That's story number 1. Story number 2 is in the gift shop one day, which is, it was in the basement. Like a gift shop, sold water crystals to tourists and visitors. Another thing he liked to do was, this middle-aged sales assistant, Frances, and she was just pushed from one end of the room to the other. And she came in, and she had to be given water and sat down because there's nobody else in the room, and she was freaked. And he did this to another person as well. On me, I went up one day, I was cooking broccoli. I went up to the sink upstairs, and it's his area, that's his upstairs in the room. And I put the broccoli to blanch it. You put on the cold water to keep it green. I came back 5 minutes later, and the hot tap was on. I know I did not do that. So they're my story, and they're only 3 from me. Anybody else who works there can tell you dozens of stories.
His name was Puck?
Puck, P-U-C-K.
How do we know who Puck was? Or is that just the nickname you guys gave him?
It was just the nickname we gave him.
All right, so kind of the mischievous Puck.
Yeah, absolutely mischievous. Playful.
Okay.
But
was there ever any scary stories there?
No, that'd be the worst of it now.
He was just more of a trickster.
Yeah, trickster.
Very cool.
But definitely, just locking doors, then suddenly they're open again, and I thought I did that, and no, it's actually undone, and playful little.
And where are we right now? The name of this restaurant is?
This is at the Granary Cafe in Waterford.
All right, thank you very much.
You're welcome.
But he's a skeptic.
Yeah, I love that. It's like, you ruined the food. We're going to fire you, but it wasn't me. It was Puck.
Right.
Did it? Puck wrecked the broccoli.
We call that plausible deniability.
That's it. Yeah. Can't prove otherwise.
So, Anne, tell us about Malahide, because you've been there a few times.
I have, and I've investigated it. And again, I was fortunate. I actually managed to speak to a security guard that had first-hand experience. It wasn't his brother's sister's wife's dog this time. It was actually him. And there's a lot. The background with Puck is that he was supposedly the jester, and he fell in love with the lady of the castle. And in the great hall, you've got the minstrel balcony at the top, and there's a little doorway that they said was Puck's room. And he would sleep in there and be called out and ridiculed, as was his job. But he fell in love with the lady of the house. Now, whether he killed himself or whether he was murdered, apparently he died from stabbing, and just skits about the castle now and torments people. Apparently, he even goes on the main staircase and can be seen carrying a bag of bones over his shoulder just to scare people for fun. But
has he ever been captured on a video, photograph, audio?
I've personally never seen anything. For me, for the castle, the first thing, you must have seen it, Dave, the portrait of Rose and Milo Talbot. As you go up the stairs, the eyes actually follow you, which is a really eerie way to start an investigation, knowing that you're being followed everywhere. But the children's bedroom, we actually found, if you were to find anywhere that was kind of had a bit of an edge to it, it was in there. And we caught EVPs of a woman just saying, I want to go. And also there's a beautiful oak drawing room. It's the big fancy windows you see as you go into the castle. They're the ones for the drawing room, and it's the oldest part, and all the paneling is ancient. And we actually in there as well got an EVP. We said, who is it? And they said, Richard. And Richard de Talbot is the first owner of Malahide Castle. So it was a very, there were a few anomalies there, shall we say. A lot of it, they are stories that are told and handed down and passed on, and, little bits tagged on here and there. But the history that it has, also on the grounds, is an old church, or abbey as it was called, with graveyard attached to it. And it's actually as part of Miles Corbett's anti-Catholicism drive. He actually stripped off all the lead and everything from the church, using it for weaponry and everything. So it goes beyond just the castle. The whole area is, the Vikings used it as a settlement in the 8th century because
the Vikings.
You did that to plug his shirt, didn't you?
So Dave, back in the 8th century, sailed his boat up the Malahide estuary and made a settlement. So you see, this is where the layers of history come in. Haunting stuff, they're not just tied to whatever's there now. It's everything that's underneath it. It seeps up through. It was a druidic area before, it's had so much attached to it. So yes, there are the well-known ghosts and stories of Malahide Castle, but it's so
But
much
there's layers of history that creates layers and layers of hauntings. And speaking of which, we're going to have a little fun there. Now, Malahide, we're not actually investigating, even though we do have 3 scheduled investigations, but Malahide will be just a very wonderful introduction to Dublin in Ireland. It's one of our first stops in our tour. But
And
later we're
hauntings
going to go
at
to
night time as well. You'll have
yes,
experiences
let's have
during the day
fun.
too.
So
Yeah.
yes, so tell us a little bit about those pubs. Are there any pubs in Dublin?
Oh, are there any pubs in Dublin? No, not one. Not
Let's not
one.
go. We're not going.
No.
That's not true. I hear its nickname is Publin.
It's
Yeah.
there are some fabulous again the dark history. A lot of the pubs would be tied to the revolutionaries, going back to the first ones with Daniel O'Connell right through to Michael Collins and everything else. The one that most people know of is the Brazen Head, which claims to be the oldest pub in Ireland. It's certainly the oldest one in Dublin. There are others in Ireland that also lay claim. You know, you've got the likes of Sean's and Athlone, or you have Dirty Nelly's down in Bunratty. But anyway you cut it, it's very old. It's got amazing connections. It's where the revolutionaries would meet. And Robert Emmet was one unfortunate who was executed for his part. And he's one of the spirits that's said to haunt the Brazen Head to this day. My own favourite, not just because it does a lovely pint of Guinness, is Kavanagh's by Glasnevin Cemetery, which is where the greats like Michael Collins are all buried. And it's known as the Gravediggers because it's synonymous with Glasnevin. It is where the gravediggers would go and, you know, drink away after a long day of digging graves. And what they would actually do is, as they were digging the graves, they would take the shovel, the sod of earth, and throw it and smack it at the side of the pub. And they'd hear the bang inside and know to start pouring the pint because they'd be on their way back in. There's said to be the ghost of an old man sat at the bar, and you think he's there, and apparently people have had a chat and whatever, and second the pint's gone, so is he.
That's happened to me a lot. That's happened to me a lot at bars with women. I buy them a drink, I turn around, and they're gone. I didn't realize those were ghosts. I feel much better about myself now.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
And then there's wonderful ones. There's another one called Brogan's. It's a really traditional old one. It's where we like to go after we've been to a gig in Dublin. It's right next to the Olympia Theatre. And again, it's with the age and everything else, it's got the hauntings. But one of the most exciting things about it is it's said that there's a tunnel. Now, no one seems to have found it, but things would have been filled in over the years, that used to run from Brogan's to the Olympia Theatre and out to Dublin Castle, which is on the other side of Dame Street. So that's quite an exciting prospect, that people were, you know, clandestine, whatever meetings, who was coming out of Dublin Castle and in, and what were they smuggling, and who were they smuggling. They're the kind of stories you want to unravel. And as there's no one there, you have to ask the spirits, and not just the ones in the bottles.
Yes, yes. We have a motto that I started with Haunted Journeys a long time ago, that a haunting is history wishing to be heard. And it's so true. And how much is that going to affect, you know, what we do and see and experience in Ireland? Yeah, we leave Dublin the next day and we go over to the hidden heartland, right? And
Hidden
there's a
heartland.
county there that is drenched with spirit. Now help me. How do you say County Offaly?
Offaly.
Or Offaly?
Offaly.
Offaly.
Not awfully. Offaly.
Offaly.
Yeah.
It sounds French then. Okay, so County Offaly.
Offaly.
Yeah, and we got such peaches there. We will be doing a couple of investigations there. But why is County Offaly so spirited? There's a reason
So
for that. I
awfully
remember you
spirited.
telling me that. Mhm.
It's very much a Druidic pagan land place. The whole area around is the way it's laid out, it's valleyed and peaks, and it was deliberately chosen because of the rich earth, the rivers and stuff around it. It was, these druids, these pagans going back thousands of years, they weren't fools. They selected places because they believed it had, because they have a closer connection to the earth and to their beliefs. And those things, a lot of those things are still there. You can still see where there would have been a druidic circle, as we've fairy forts that remain on lands untouched by time. These things, it's like a snowball. It starts with a little snowball of history, dark history. As it goes along, it wraps up with a bit of mythology. It wraps up with personal accounts. It wraps up with personal experiences, and it snowballs into this massive avalanche of activity.
And I'm not sure if Dave is aware, I'm sure he is. How excited are you about doing an investigation at Charleville Castle?
Is that the castle up behind me in this portrait?
No.
Oh.
Well, we'll send
now
you a
I'm not
picture.
excited at all. Let's just go.
Yeah.
No,
well, you've been there already. You've been there already, so you need somewhere new to go.
I absolutely love the opportunity to check out these locations, to we get to insert ourselves into the history, because it's not just a paranormal investigation. You become one of those layers. You become part of that history going forward. So for people that have sat on the sidelines watching paranormal shows all these years, seeing all these fantastic journeys, you finally get up off the couch and you get to join us in the heat of the moment and be a part of these amazing structures. And when you see this, the one thing I will tell you, I come back from every time I visit one of these amazing countries, is the fact that as Americans, our houses are garbage. You get a house that was built across the street in 1989 and it's fallen in on itself. We go out to your place. This place was built back in 1207 and it's still standing. Right?
Yeah,
You're like, how is that possible?
They're
right?
Petrified.
It's amazing.
Yes.
And I love that. And I think that people often think of something tragic having to happen there for spirits, and it doesn't have to be that. It can be the energy of the good times. It can be the thoughts and everything has kind of been unloaded into these locations.
Right.
And you get a chance to go in there and see it for yourself, touch the floors, touch the wall, and you can kind of feel that vibe. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. And it's
the brickwork. Yeah.
And it's not just the history that's in textbooks.
Right.
It's histories that were only shared between one or two people that loved each other, that died for each other, that lived with each other until war broke them apart. These little insignificant stories that still penetrate.
You have to remember as well that in the building of a lot of these structures, there was death. There were people that were hurt and killed and large stones falling on them. So there was literally blood, sweat, and tears put into each one of these locations. So you may not be dealing with the dukes and kings and queens and earls. You may be dealing with the spirits of those who lost their life to make this monument to history.
Well, let's take a look at what Charleville ghosts are like. Here we go.
Not too shabby.
No,
I don't
no.
think it does it justice, to be honest with you.
And that's what we want, because we want people to come with us to see it for real.
That's why Maria works with me. Let's set people's expectations low. Dave Schrader's going to be on this, and then boom, when you get there, you totally forget that I'm a part of the trip.
No, I have to say, Charleville is one of those places I've gone back to again and again for paranormal investigation, but that's not why I go back. It's the architecture and the history. You're talking about one of the most amazing Gothic designs. The architect's actually Francis Johnston, who designed the GPO in Dublin, you know, the Easter Rising. So it has that connection. And it's just the architect, just so much detail inside. There's a designer, I don't know if you know, a historic designer called William Morris, and he actually done a lot of the work in there. There's a fantastic ceiling in the dining room, and there's some of his original wallpaper still there. Then you've got all these little like motifs and little moldings that all lay imagery to the Freemasons, and little hints of the Knights Templar, because one of the rooms in one of the towers, of course, was actually used as a Freemasons meeting room. And you notice you have all these little gems before you even start looking for spirits. You know, and that's, you know, and you're absorbing this as you're going around. It's one of the most exciting locations architecturally and historically, because of the way history has been entwined with the actual design that's still there today.
That will be our first paranormal investigation there for 3 to 4 hours, and late at night when the doors are closed. And we're so excited about that. To be able to, because when you really go and search online on true classic, you know, paranormal investigations, or the true classic tales of the historical hauntings, there's very little out there really in Ireland. So it's critical that we experience that firsthand, and hopefully we'll be able to capture some of those moments and bring them back home with us. So have you been to Charleville Castle yet, Dave?
Gosh, you know, this sounds silly, but I've been to so many different countries.
Yeah.
And I've seen so many of the castles and everything. They all start to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but the names are the ones that escape me. It's just the beauty of them. And I've got a phone filled with thousands of photographs from all of these locations that I've had a chance to visit. I don't recall offhand, but I'm excited to get back to it.
But just enough awfully, which I have a hard time right now circulating with my ADD brain, all the different castles there, because they all start with a C, Killarney, or with a K, Kinnity, you know, Charleville. The only exception there is the king, or I should say the queen of castles, and that would be what? Lep Castle.
Yes.
Let's meet Sean, and let's Sean tell you about his ghosts.
Well, there are many spirits in the house, yeah. They've never interfered and made life difficult in any way other than they let us know that they're here. We see a lot of them. Sometimes to be as clearly as I'd see you, sometimes or a lot of the time it'll be like a haze or an aura around them, or maybe just around part of them. Down here then, or mostly down here anyway, we meet with a lady and she touches people. We call her the governess. And she's usually around as well when there are two little girls that play around here that we meet a lot. And she's always with them. And we have a feeling she had something to do with them. But we have no record of any of that, you know. Because it was burned down in 1922, so any records that would have been lost in the fire. And a lot of our visitors experience that. It's like somebody brushing off you. There was a lady there sometime at the end of last year. She was a Swedish lady, and she described it. It happened over there on that side. She described it. She thought it was a dog or something that passed and rubbed off her. That was her first reaction or thought or whatever, you know. But I suppose for almost everybody that would experience that, it would be a first time experience for them. But they amaze themselves as to how calmly they react to it, you know. They don't feel threatened by it, as we don't, you know. So it's all good. We hear them. We tend to hear them, I suppose, at night time a fair bit. Now it's not a nighttime thing only, it's just so quiet when we lock up, and it's like it's footsteps, people walking around, doors opening and closing. But we hear a good bit of, it'd be like a lot of people in another room talking. Now you can't make out what's being said or anything like that, but the thing about that, we say you heard it coming from down that corridor and you're sure that it's down there. But if you go down there, it's not. It'll be someplace else. You know, you'll never actually be at it.
What a lovely man, Sean. Oh my God.
Wow.
Okay, so
I'm eating the official popcorn of Ireland.
It is, yeah. We'll go around eating that and nothing.
Well, don't
else,
let
yeah.
him fool you, because I think in his dark life, he's a leprechaun, a big leprechaun.
Hey,
Leprechaun.
very cool.
Yes, yes. Sean, amazing man.
Yeah.
That he'll always be part of that, even after, God forbid, ever he passes. But he will always be part of those walls and part of that history.
Yeah, and his music as well. And I think that's what keeps things happening there, is that musical connection. Sensation.
Yeah, when we were there, he started playing. What was he playing? What was it he was playing?
Flute.
Tin whistle.
What's it called?
Tin whistle.
Tin whistle.
tin
That's what it was.
whistle.
Yeah, I remember. And he sat there and played that, and we were all just like, "What?" I have video of that somewhere as well. But he was great to talk with as they were telling us, you know. And again, he's so matter of fact about it all, right? Oh, yes, there's this ghost and that ghost and this spirit, and we hear footsteps and we hear that, and we've seen this, and people have experienced that, and he's just so. It's just like living in any kind of building, an apartment complex, right? There's just all these other characters zipping around. Sean and his wife completely oblivious to any of the spookiness going, and they just totally accept that aspect, which I thought was so phenomenal because they've embraced each other, right? The spirits and the living. And I think that's why we've had some interesting experiences when we were there. We actually caught a photograph from outside. We were doing a picture, and we caught a photograph of somebody up in one of the windows looking out, and they think it was like an old vicar or something that was staring out the window. It was pretty interesting just to have those experiences, but we caught some EVP and just a nice area. But I thought was funny is as we were talking to them, and he's so matter of fact about the ghosts, but you know, here on this side of the pond, when we talk and you start talking about things like banshees and fairies, you know, we're picturing Tinkerbell, ding, you know, and everything's beautiful and light, right? And man, there is a severe fear and reverence for things like fairies and for banshees and dark legend and lore of those stories as well. And I know if we have time, I think I sent you a video if we have time to play that in a little bit, but hearing Sean and our host actually tell us some of these tales while we're standing in Lep Castle, everybody was just, it was right after he got done playing the tin whistle, and it was amazing.
Yeah, it's really funny. I've been able to connect with him. He's very hot. He's terrible with IT and cell phones and emails. You can imagine being a musician as he is. He's traveled to the United States playing. I mean, he's traveled. He's an international musician.
He is. More often than not, he's away playing. He's above in Clare, which is home.
So he says, well, Maria, before you go, I've got to play you a song, and he'll play there. So he'll play longer than he talks to me. So he's a magical man. Now, he doesn't talk a lot about a couple of things that are interesting. And I know, Anne, you've been there a few times. So there's two places that are pretty intense there, right? There's the Bloody Chapel. And then there's
well, what do you expect when you name it the Bloody Chapel? It's going to end up being a bad place.
Yeah. Are you struggling with oubliette there, Marie?
The oubliette. Yeah. See, now, oubliette. This is a French county in Ireland, but yes, oubliette. And
well, to be fair, a lot of us are Normans. Massey is from Normandy. We came over a few hundred years ago, several hundred years ago.
There you go.
Part of the Normans. So there is a big French element
influence
historically, anyway. Yeah.
So the Myrtle Hole.
Sorry, I didn't roll my eyes at you guys telling stories. My daughter just walked in with a new pet, and I'm shaking my head and rolling my eyes at her.
Well,
I just didn't want anybody watching this.
Do you have to walk this pet?
Yeah, I hope not. She just walked in the door and held it up for me with a big smile, and I just didn't want anybody watching this to be like, why is he rolling his eyes at these two women talking about what an amazing place this is?
So is your daughter with Ireland right now? With you in Ireland? I'm just kidding. Okay, so about that Myrtle Hole, Anne.
Yeah. Well, actually, the whole Bloody Chapel, I had probably one of the darkest experiences I've had investigating. There were a few of us up there, and the fellas were doing the call outs because it's a fairly masculine area. The tale is that two brothers of the O'Carroll clan, one was a priest, and he started celebrating mass because that was obviously a chapel, and he was celebrating mass, which was a big slight. It was a big affront to start without the head of the household, which his brother was effectively as the higher ranking chieftain, shall we say. And so in the middle of mass, the brother came in and slay the priest over the altar, which is how it got its name. And attached to that is the oubliette, which would have been originally used for just storing and hiding stuff for raids so that people, they'd keep some of their treasures. But the O'Carrolls just used to casually just throw people that were hacking them off down there and just literally forget about them. And when they were doing renovations, they did find lots of bones. But my experience there, we were doing the call outs, and I was with two other women, and we were on one side and the fellas were on the other side. And the fellas were getting no response at all. And then all of a sudden, it was like a dark shadow rushed from one side to the other. And the three of us at exactly the same time slammed against the wall. Oh. It's one of those things like you didn't believe it. If it wasn't for the fact the fellas saw it happen, and that we three of us it happened to, one person you could think, oh, they tripped or whatever, but three to go back at the same time.
That's incredible.
And you could feel it was like a dark thing go through me. And I shook it off fast enough. But what the ladies I was with would be a bit more, should we say, sensitive. And they weren't able to investigate much for the rest of the night because it had shaken them so badly. Mm-hmm. And it is so unique to that particular part of the castle. don't get that feeling in any of the other spaces that are there, you see.
Hmm.
Mhm.
Yeah, and it's remarkable how Sean didn't speak about that. He brushed on like Dave said, a little bit of as a matter of fact. These are the ones we live with. These are part of our castle, and it's very matter of fact. And so we will be
Maria,
having
I
yes.
was going to mention, I don't know if you have the opportunity to do this quickly, but I just did message you the picture of the ghost in the window that we captured when we were there.
Yes, I
Yeah.
can do it quickly. Go on and tell me a little story while I keep myself
All right. Well,
busy.
while we were there, yeah, we had a great opportunity to speak with so many locals that were very open to the idea of sharing these locations, the history, the hauntings, and I never felt like we were being put on. I always felt like they were being very open and kind in the way they shared it with us. It seems that the people in Ireland don't share the same necessarily belief system we do when it comes to ghosts and what they are. It seems more, to America, it's supernatural. To Ireland, it seems just to be part of the natural.
It's
What's
way of life.
outside of that realm is everything else.
That just ties in with everything we do, when with Samhain, when we have the dumb supper and leave things out for past loved ones, and the way we wake people, the way our funerals go, the traditions are still there because it's a continuation. It's a way of life. I was raised, my mother telling me, not ghost stories, but actual accounts, happenings, matter of fact. This
Mhm.
is it. This is how it is. And that's how I've always been with it. It's it's not sensationalist here. It just is.
Right, and it's downloading, so hopefully we'll be able to get to see that picture. The reason I hesitate is because it's an amazing photograph.
Yeah, it is,
It
isn't it?
really is.
You're
It's like
just
a
wondering
gigantic, it's
I've
a
seen it.
gigantic full figure apparition. It certainly is.
And we were the only ones there with Sean and his wife. And when we left the building and we were taking pictures from outside, nobody was inside except for Sean and his wife. And it's very clearly not them.
Oh, dear Lord.
So
So hopefully it's uploading. I don't know whether because of the streaming, it's not letting us put in there. But if it does pop in, which eventually with during the broadcast, I'll come back to it.
okay.
All right. Sounds wonderful. So we're going to go ahead and leave the hidden heartland of Ireland, and we're going to go to a magical city called Cork. And a lot of folks don't, it is the second largest tourist district, right? Number one being Dublin.
Yeah.
An error occurred. Wait a moment, then try again.
Here,
Okay.
maybe I could
That's
Oh,
better.
put this.
That's it's
Because
moving.
yeah, you could see in the. Oh God, grief!
Oh,
Let me
I
take Ireland off my screen
I've
here,
got
and
another idea. I've got another
yeah,
idea. I'm going to make it smaller because I think it's the size that's doing it. So we're going to go ahead and
we'll
just
go off my virtual background for a moment, and I'll kind of show the picture. You can actually see Sean and his
Oh,
wife out front, but if you look up in the upper window here,
I can see it. Yeah.
yeah, you
And
can
I
see
know
the
that
man
window.
standing there.
I've got photos like we took in that window. So that's insane.
Right.
Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah.
Now, what's weird is look at the size difference too. I mean, whatever it is huge compared to Sean and his wife on the outside. Is that his wife? I can't tell in the picture. But
Dan, yeah.
yeah, and
But
then
it's
look at how huge. So it's very strange. Great photograph. My buddy Greg Lawson captured that when we were outside all doing our team photos.
that is superb. But
Yeah.
it's funny because you can actually get funny sizing off of that window anyway. And of course, what you've got to remember is a lot of the castle over time had been destroyed. It's the older part. So, yourself, especially when it's residual, they're going to be, if you like, sized and based on whatever was there before. So you just don't know, do you?
That's right.
That's right.
Very cool.
That's right.
All right, now we can leave the heartland, right?
We can leave the heartland.
Yeah, come on,
Do you know
let's
what I'm going
go.
to do? Because this is such an outstanding photograph that I'm actually going to go ahead and pop out the window itself.
Okay.
because I think it's worthwhile. Okay, let's try that.
Yeah, and you never know where you're going to get the spiritual activity, right? I mean, we're inside trying to catch photographs, and we all leave, and it's almost like the vicar's looking out the window at us.
Yes.
Winding you up, yeah, teasing you, or just making sure you've gone.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see if we can put that one in there. Yeah, here it is. Ready? Oh.
It's crazy.
Almost. Okay. Now tell me if I'm right or wrong. It's almost a clergyman.
Right.
Yeah.
That's what we were saying. Yeah, vicar, right.
Vicar.
I think that's what they call them, vicars. Am I right on that end?
Yeah, well, if it's Church of Ireland, it would be a vicar. Otherwise, it would be a priest.
Okay.
So I'd be inclined to in that outfit to say more priest.
Gotcha.
But here's the thing again, knowing that window, knowing what's behind it, and knowing what would be reflecting, all that you're getting reflected is trees and fields. There's nothing else.
Right.
And in that room, it's just solid stone walls. There's nothing that could be reflective. There's no massive portrait in there. There's nothing.
That's why I feel good about sharing it. I'm very skeptical when it comes to these things, and he caught it and showed it to us immediately on the bus. And it wasn't an app that was being used. That was the actual photograph. So very cool. The spirits like to come out and play in Ireland.
Yes.
Oh yeah. You'll catch them when they want it, not when you want them.
That's right.
So off to Cork we go. That was an amazing contribution. Thank you, Dave.
I've actually got goosebumps off of that one. I think
I will thank you to Greg Lawson. Yeah.
This trip now, they're gonna to see that photo now, and then to see it once they've been there.
Of course, we're not going to go all inside the castle once we see that picture. We're all going to be outside taking lots of angles on the window.
All right, so tell me about Cork.
Did you actually eat that, or did you buy this as a?
No, I do. My kids eat it. My kids and my wife eat it because it's gluten-free.
But it's so sweet. Oh,
just like my wife.
That's right. That's right, Winnie. Yes.
Someone's going to get lucky later.
So Cork is very magical. Now, one thing that I've noticed about Cork, it's on the seaside, right? It's down south. Gorgeous city. They like their ghosts there. Oh, it's a harbor. Okay. They like their
natural harbor. Yeah.
There's water. So they're surrounded by water, which is good for ghosts. They like their ghosts there. I've noticed they're a little bit more open about their ghosts than anywhere else in the country. Could be reason why they're the second largest destination in Ireland. Maybe because people want that. Who knows? Tell us a little bit about Cork.
Well, it's known as the Rebel County, so it's no surprise that they're actually, flying in the face of what everybody else does. I mean, what does a rebel do? It's also the site of some of the nastiest battles, particularly revolutionary-wise. It's obviously the place where Michael Collins was assassinated. It has... compared to the rest of Ireland, even Dublin jail-wise, it was responsible for some of the nastiest parts of Irish society. They'd be sent from all over. And it was also where a lot of the revolutionaries and those captured would be sent and incarcerated as well. And of course, it's where Titanic docked for the last time.
I was hoping you get that too. Because to me, that is so incredible that was the last stop before it sank.
That's right. And there is actually still down there. There's still the tiniest part of the original jetty out. So it was literally where people would have stood on solid mainland for the last time. Because, of course, so many of the steerage passengers got on in Ireland, and they were the ones that didn't survive.
Right.
Cork is also the location for the horrific Lusitania sinking during the First World War. The German torpedoed the boat, and it went down, and a horrific loss of life.
So what you're saying is it's a good thing we're on land and not taking a boat out from Ireland.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know,
Yeah.
Dave. The way the airfares are going, we may have to resort to that. Yes.
And before, I just want to address the fact that everybody thinks Titanic is one of the most romantic movies in the world. I do want you to remember that Jack did tell Rose, "Don't let go, Rose." She said, "I never will." And the minute she realized he was frozen, she peeled his fingers off and gave him a push down under the water.
I'm sorry, but they not both have fitted on that door. They both could have fitted on that door. She wanted to keep that diamond for herself. Let's be honest.
Let's call it the way it is. A good old Irish woman, right?
Maybe we should put it to the test, and we'll get like a big plank of wood and we'll push it out into the water out there, and I'll lay on it and see if somebody wants to lay on it with me, and if we both would have survived.
Yeah.
It's science.
Yes. We will be spending a few days in Cork because we have to. There's so much to do there. We will be doing our third investigation there. At the very famous Spike Island, where it is considered Ireland's Alcatraz. I just spoke to a few people.
No, Alcatraz is considered America's Spike Island.
Thank you. I'll write that down. But that being said, I've spoken to a few people from Ireland or in Ireland in the last couple of weeks. And when I mentioned we're going to Spike, they said that place is absolutely incredible. It's absolutely incredible. We're not going to feature it now because we have to leave some good surprises. But there's a really interesting place that's sort of associated to a prison, but it's more a jail. So I guess Cork really likes their. They had a big sale on prisons then, and prison bars and stuff. So they took advantage of it. And let's go ahead and look a little bit about that now.
Ah, hello there. I believe you wish to come and visit us here at Cork City Jail. I have to say, we're more accustomed to receiving visits from the more disreputable citizens of Cork City. So it'll be a nice change to have some more respectable visitors. Come and get an insight into what life was like in a 19th century prison. During your visit, you can explore the grounds, wander the corridors, and even get locked into a cell. You'll learn the stories of some of the prisoners and staff who resided here. Most only stayed for short durations, but learn how Mary MacDonald became a regular at Cork City Jail with no less than 57 convictions. Or hear the amusing story of conman James Burns and how he nearly slipped arrest. And learn the fascinating tale of the demise of the Governor's Tunnel. And see for yourself a prison that Countess Markovich called the most comfortable prison she'd ever been in. There is plenty to see, do, and learn about here at Cork City Jail. We await your sentencing. I mean arrival.
I've had a chance to actually investigate Alcatraz. And now that I get to investigate the quaint version of it over in Ireland, I'll be
fighting Irish now. Yeah.
Wow. I'm looking forward to it. I've been on the two most amazing prisons in the world. I've done more jail time as a paranormal investigator than most celebrities ever do that have actually broken the law.
That's true, actually. Yeah.
Not that we do. Yes. That looks amazing. I'm sorry we're not doing an investigation at the jail, just the prison, but, we can't tire our folks up too much. The place looks beautiful. Amazing.
I'll tell you what, when you get there, It's funny. You look at it and you go, oh, isn't it quaint? Isn't it lovely? And then you look down because it's a place called Sunday's Well in Cork in the city. The other thing you find in Ireland is every 2 feet it's got a different name. And you're looking down over the city and you think, right, this won't take long. I'll have this done in like half an hour. And then you realise it's just like a little gatehouse, and you go through and then suddenly all opens out and it's way bigger than you could ever imagine. And it was opened in, let me think now, I think it was 1824, there and thereabouts anyway.
Well, yes.
And the first execution wasn't long after. And the fellow, his name escapes me now, but he was actually convicted of rape. And they flew a black flag from the top of the castle, which you could see all over Cork because it's very high up. And they had this countdown, the minute bell ringing, and it started at midday. And for this first execution, bearing in mind you're talking the early 1800s, thousands of spectators came to see this man hanged in the grounds, and he was hanged at 1 p.m. and it took him apparently 15 minutes of quivering, because with a hanging, the lucky ones, the neck breaks.
Yeah.
Otherwise it's
Suffocate
suffocation and pain, and that's what happened to this guy. And they had their share after that, and then towards the end of the 18th century it became a women's prison, which, as you can imagine, there was also going to be a lot of children there, because the women wouldn't be separated from their children. And you've got to remember, you're talking about a time when, particularly during the famine and everything else, where being poor was a crime. If you couldn't pay your taxes, if you couldn't pay your rent, if you couldn't do these things, and the workhouses were filling up, what do? You throw them in the jail and throw their kids in there with you. And it's vermin and it's disease. These cells that you would think should probably only hold 4 to 8 people could have 25, 50 people jammed into them, just with straw on the floor. And even though regulations were brought in, it didn't stop the deaths. It wasn't the executions, it was disease, it was malnutrition. Although, to be fair, they did try and turn it around a little bit. The governor's wife brought in an education system and tried to, have better health conditions. But my goodness, it was a dire place. What you saw there was a very romanticized view of the...
it was, because it was for normal tourists, and God knows we're not normal.
Yeah, but you did have the likes of Countess Markovitz in there, who was obviously, although a fabulously well-to-do noblewoman, she fought a noble cause, and she remained a woman. And they let her in there, and they let her have a desk, and they let her write her letters. And she was actually imprisoned for 4 months there in 1919, I think it was, for seditious comment, which is a posh way of saying she was trying to bring down the government with the words she was saying. And she'd done her 4 months, and she came out, and she was still an elegant lady, but by God, she was tough. And it finally closed around 1923. But it seems some of the inmates didn't leave.
Well, I'm hoping after our time there, people will still look at me as an elegant lady as well.
Well, you could try the dress. They have the mannequin there, so you could put on the Countess's dress.
There you go. Your dream come true.
Don't threaten me with a good time.
No longer in the closet will we be, huh?
That's right.
In the jail cell. Yeah.
Yes. So we do go back to Cork. Back to Dublin after our magical visit to Cork, up to get our planes up to Dublin. And it's going to be an overnight straight shot up there. So people are asking about that because they're watching airfares, and Dublin is one of the most affordable airports to fly into. Ireland. What I want to talk a little bit about, we just talk so much about our tour, etc., and people are probably how do I get there? How do I join? It's quite easy, actually. And we're a small company, and therefore we do things right. We do things comprehensively. We craft everything. Everything is done for a purpose, not for the corporate needs or etc. It's what our people want. People that want to explore and and dream about the supernatural and the mysteries of the world. So that being said, we want you there. We want you to be a part of us. It's a small group, and we don't do more than 30 people. And that's not common in Ireland. Ireland will pull up with a bus or two buses of 100 plus people, get out, take a little quick snapshot, and come back into the bus. We hope to deliver um, a much more in-depth experience.
They're not going to be dreaming the supernatural. They're going to be experiencing.
Experience it. Oh, yes. That being said, tell us about COVID. Any regs I have to worry about when I bring our folks over?
Nope. Pubs are open, pints are pouring, music is playing, and those that we've been going on investigation wise, spoke to a number of the teams actually, and it's almost like the rest has done the spirits good and they've recharged their paranormal batteries.
We're ready.
Finding anyone that's gone out lately we're all finding that the activity is a lot higher than it was before.
The ghosts are hungry. We've noticed that here in the United States too. All these places that were shut down, the spirits feed off our energy as much as we feed off their history. So they're looking for that interaction as well.
Interesting point. Interesting point.
And we have you don't need to
show a vaccination card.
No, you don't need to bring your great grandparents and a correct drawing of the White House in order to get access into Ireland. Nothing like that. You can't your ticket.
Ironically, the only limitation there is, and it's just a very small limitation, but we've made this very convenient for our travelers, is that the United States requires you to have a little bit of a nose rub before you go back into the USA. It's on us, not on you. So that being said, we found a way. It's the only e-health company that while we're drinking our pint at the bar, we're going to have a party the night before. And we will all have these remote kits, and we'll have representatives that will check us off. They'll see our results and send us an e-health verification online while we're drinking.
Better again. Now we're crossing our fingers here, but we've been rumor is that it could actually. That requirement could even be gone soon.
Yes. I know that our current travelers are buying the kits. They love the idea of having a COVID testing party, and we're just gonna, we don't have to stop in the clinic.
In the likelihood that you're not required to test going back into the US, and you still want something shoved up your nose, the party's going to be there anyway,
whether you shove it or not. Correct.
Yeah.
So that being said, I want to welcome every one of you to join us on our tour of it's called Dark Ireland Tour with Dave Schrader. It starts on June 17th, and for 9 days we'll be traveling through into Dublin, down through the heartland into Cork. And we're going to do a lot of fun things together, a lot of explorations. Dave, you've had a few itineraries. Are you happy with this one? Do you think we're going to have a good time?
No. I know we're going to have a good time. Listen, I don't waste my time going on adventures and events anymore that aren't up to par. I know that the people that I travel with want to have great experiences. They want to see the world. They want to have and maximize their time. And that's why I went along with you on your adventures here, because Mysterious Adventure Tours, you guys do it right. And I'm excited about that, as is, I know, all of the people that signed up. And I do want to mention, we have an event in October sold out in 24 hours for our
Yes.
Ireland trip. And there were so many of you that wanted to be a part of that trip. We opened up the second trip, which is in June. So we're time traveling. You get to be the first Ireland trip doing this. And, we filled that up relatively quickly. We literally only have about 4, maybe 5 spots left open for this trip in June. And if you want to be a part of this, I promise you, you're in for the adventure of a lifetime. We're going to have laughs. We're going to have fun. We're going to get to hunt for the paranormal. We're going to get guaranteed spirits every night in one of the pubs. You can't go wrong.
That's right. We'll find those spirits.
Plus, I'm bringing Lucky Charms.
Please do. Please do. And thank you for the kind words, Dave. I feel the same way, honored that you are our ambassador. I'm going to ask Ann Massey to join us in a couple of the days that we're out there. You name it. If you can be there, it would be our honor to have you there with us. I just think this is going to be an incredible adventure. I want to be clear. This trip in June did sell out. It did. We managed to, there was a couple of, cancellations because of health reasons, and they are so upset about not being there. On top of that, we actually were able to squeeze in 2 more seats on the bus. So we want it to be a perfect number, and we're going to be there, and it's going to be wonderful. I think you are also, Dave, bringing some special guests with you from the USA. Can I say? Can I tease them?
Sure. I don't know how special they are to anybody but me, but yes, my son Linus and his wife are going to be celebrating their honeymoon in Ireland together. And so it's going to be a lot of fun. I'm excited that they're going to be a part of the journey.
We'll let you know what rooms they have, because this is their honeymoon. We're going to be steer away on the other side of the hotel.
Yeah.
Yes, we will.
No banging on the windows.
Yeah, it's all good, and we all become, from what I understand, a family there. Mm-hmm. And to me, that's very, very important.
We have people attending this event that have attended 90% of my other foreign trips, and we do become a family. And I don't mean that in any kind of corny way. People bond on these trips. We have people now that travel on every one of our foreign trips, and they go with us, this group, and that's why we sell out very fast. So I want to make sure that people realize this is a great opportunity, and you're going to get to meet people like you that are open-minded to the supernatural, that love history and love travel, and you get to meet a whole new family of friends. And I promise you, when you walk away from this trip, these are people that you're going to see over and over again.
Yes, and it's priced right. Unfortunately, it's priced pre-COVID. Even though we're inheriting post-COVID costs, that's fine. All we want to do is get you over to Ireland. I think it's under $2,200. You get a magnificent experience in Ireland for 9 days. It includes everything but your airfare, and I will personally escort you to get the best rate possible into Ireland, because I know that's very important. We don't want to spend the money with an airplane. We want to spend the monies in those pubs. We will have a welcome lunch included, as well as celebration dinner at the very end, where we all get to share our photos, our stories, and our new friends. So if you want to join us, I've got the link down below. It's very simple. It's Mysterious Adventure Tours. You can go there and just click on Our Tours, or do the back end here, Our Tours, with a slash in between. And Dave is one of the ones on top, and I'm so happy that you're joining us. And let's not forget that we also have another one coming up in February. So we want to make people addicted to this, and that's up in Egypt. But it's far, far away, and we'll have another special show about that.
A totally different part of Ireland than you've ever seen before.
Oh,
Egypt, Ireland. Right, we're going to be doing Egypt in 2023.
Egypt, yeah.
But come on out, join us in Ireland.
I just say, I think it's great that Dave, you and Maria are going to ride on the roof to free up those 2 extra seats on the coach.
Okay. I'm all for it. Yeah.
Okay. And if everybody insists, we will allow Anne to join us, because
sure, we'll save her room up on the roof with you and I, and the hank of rope we're going to hold on to.
Yeah.
I want to make a disclaimer also that
What?
I am not going to be your tour guide. I'm there as a cattle hustler, you know, the girl with the whistle and the girl with the clipboard. Anthony Kelly.
Oh my God, it's a banshee. And we'll say, no, it's just Maria.
It's a
with her
banshee.
whistle.
It's a banshee. No, it's Maria. It's Maria. Another version of a banshee. Anthony Kelly is our tour guide, and he is absolutely magical. He loves the Viking culture. In fact, when he draws us back to the bus, when we're ready to go back from our tour, he'll take out a Viking's horn and blow it, and everybody will know it's time to come home to our bus. Exactly. Those are the kind of people we deal with. Thank you so much for being a part of us. Again, Mysterious Adventure Tours, special thanks to Anne for joining us today, giving us that piece of history that I'm just soaking it in and making me more excited about being there. Dave, for the honor of your presence there, thank you. Make sure you bring your Lucky Charms with you.
I will.
And with that, we say goodnight to everybody. Thank you so much for being here. Join us, mysteriousadventuretours.com.